Assalamualaikum everyone. Today, in today's class, we will be determining the sample size and common sampling errors. First of all, come toward the introduction. Welcome back, dear class. In the first part, we discussed about the type of sampling and what were the categories of sampling. Now, let's focus on how many people we should include in our sample. That's called the sample size, and what type of mistakes or error can happen while the sampling. First of all, determining the sample size. Sample size means how many people or items you include in your research. If the sample is too small, your results may not be accurate, and if your sample is too large, then it becomes expensive and time consuming. So, we must find the right balance. The factors which affect the sample size would be, first of all, number one, population. Number two, the size of population. If your population is small, you can take it larger percentage as your sample. For example, for 500 students, a sample of 100 is enough, but for 1 lakh people, the sample of 400 to 500 may not be sufficient. The margin of error or accuracy level. Smaller error or the smaller error would represent the larger sample. For example, if you want your results to be very accurate, increase the number of respondents. Number three, the confidence level. Usually, the confidence level is 99%. It means how sure you are about the sample that your sample represents the entire population. Then come the population variability. If the people opinions are very different, then take the larger sample, and if most of the people think alike, then even the smaller groups can be sufficient. So, what is the rule of thumb? There is no one magic number, but here are some general guidelines that the researchers often use. These include the population size. For 100 of population, 80 sample would be appropriate, and for 500 sample, 150 will be appropriate sample size. For example, if you are studying Daraz customers in Multan and you expect around 10,000 online shoppers, a sample of 350 to 400 respondents is a reasonable sample. Then use the online tools. Nowadays, we can use online sample size calculators like Rowsoft or SurveyMonkey to estimate how many respondents we need based on the confidence level and margin of error. Now let us come toward the common sampling errors, which is very important while you are making the questionnaire. Even with the best plans, sample errors can happen. Let's understand the main ones. So, sampling error. What is sampling error? This happens when your sample doesn't perfectly represent the population. For example, if you only surveyed male students, but the population has both genders like male and female, your results may be biased. Then how to reduce it? You can reduce it by using the larger samples. You can reduce it by use of probability sampling methods. Now let us discuss toward the non-probability errors. There are other type of mistakes that are not related to the sample size. For example, wrong questions in the survey, or recording errors while entering the data, or the respondents lying or misunderstanding the questions. There can be an error in which the researcher bias during the selection. For example, we will take a local example. If you survey the shopkeepers in Multan but only visits the shop in one bazaar, your results will not represent the entire population or the whole city. So, what can be the non-response errors? Non-response error occur when some people refuse to answer or ignore your survey. For example, you sent 200 Google Forms but only 100 people responded. Now, let us discuss then how to reduce such kind of errors. You will have to keep your questionnaires short, you will have to send the soft reminders and offer a small reward or a thank you note simply. Now come towards the selection bias. When the researcher chooses people in a way that favor certain type of groups, for example, interviewing only your friends or your own classmates, this sample will not be a random so far. This will not be also a fair sample. How to reduce the sampling errors? You need to use the clear sampling procedures in order to reduce the sampling errors. You need to make sure that sample is representative. You will have to increase the sample size and you will have to train the data collectors properly and then present your questionnaires. So, in order to summarize today's lecture, I will say that we discussed in this part, we learned that sample size refers to total number of people or units that we include in our research. Choosing the right sample size is very important. It should be large enough to represent the population but small enough to be the manageable. For example, when studying large group like online shoppers in Multan, selecting around 350 to 400 respondents is usually sufficient to get the reliable results. We also discussed several types of sampling errors that can affect the quality of our research. The first sampling error would be which errors when the selected sample doesn't truly represent the entire population. For instance, if we only include the male students in the study meant to represent all the students, our results will be biased. Next is the non-sampling error, which include the mistake made during data collection or the analysis of data, such as recording incorrect information, using the confusion questions, or misinterpreting the answers. These errors can occur even if the sample is large and well chosen. Another common problem is that non-response error, which happens when the same participants refuse to take part or ignore the survey. For example, if only half of the people you sent your questionnaire to actually respond, the result may not accurately represent everyone's opinion. In short, a researcher must carefully decide the sample size and take the steps to avoid the errors and ensure that the results are valid, reliable, and are truly reflecting the opinions of whole population. So class, in today's lecture, we have taken the overview of different errors that occur during while we are doing our research. We have to minimize such biases and errors. हमें ये देखना है कि हम जिनसे डाटा कलेक्ट कर रहे हैं वहाँ पे हम कोई बाइसनेस ना कर रही हूँ, लाइक सिर्फ अपने फ्रेंड्स से हम डाटा कलेक्ट कर रहे हैं या बहुत बड़ी पॉपुलेशन को स्टडी करने के लिए बहुत ही छोटा सैंपल ले रहे हैं. इन डिफाइंड एरर्स के अलावा भी हमने कुछ नॉन रैंडम एरर्स को डिस्कस किया है. लाइक हो सकता है कि डाटा एंट्री में मिस्टेक आ जाए या हमसे एंटर करने लगे गलत डाटा एंटर हो जाए. तो आपने जितना भी अच्छा सैंपल चूज़ किया हो, आपने जितना भी एक्यूरेट डाटा कलेक्ट किया हो, अगर आपसे नॉन रैंडम एरर कोई आ गया या नॉन रैंडम मिस्टेक हो गई तो भी आप जो है वो ठीक से एनालिसिस अपने डाटा का नहीं कर सकते और अपनी पॉपुलेशन को ठीक से स्टडी नहीं कर सकते. तो यह आज के लेक्चर में हमने कुछ एरर्स को डिस्कस किया है. पहले लेक्चर्स में हमने सैम्पलिंग को डिस्कस किया था और अब हमने इसके एरर्स को डिस्कस किया. दैट वाज ऑल फॉर द सैम्पलिंग पार्ट ऑफ आवर मार्केटिंग रिसर्च सब्जेक्ट. सो टेक गुड केयर ऑफ़ योरसेल्फ. टिल देन, अल्लाह हाफिज़.